If you are a lawn care business owner making over $500,000 a year in annual revenue, and your focus is not on these four things, I guarantee you that you are losing money.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back, everybody. My name is Sam Gustin, and if you are new here, I am the co-owner of Troops Mowing, a residential lawn care company here in Hutto, Texas. As of right now, June 6th, we are on pace to hit $930,000 in annual revenue in this 2024 season. But over the next 6 months, it is my personal mission to push sales so that we can break that $1 million a year mark in this 2024 season, which happens to be our fourth year full time. Now, what I'm going to cover in this video is what I call my core four. And what my core four is it is my compass that gives me 4 different tasks or areas of focus that I must pay attention to, or else our business is not moving in the right direction. As an owner of $1 million a year company, which, God willing, we'll get to that in this 2024 season, if I don't follow these 4 key areas, the core 4, I am losing money, and I'm doing a disservice to my employees and to my community and ultimately to myself. My first area of focus is to increase profit. The best way to increase profit and the simplest way to understand how to increase profit is to do 2 different things. Option 1 is you can decrease your expenses. Because if the amount of revenue that you make stays the exact same, but you decrease your expenses, that ultimately increases your profit. The second way to increase your profit is to keep your expenses the same, but increase your labor efficiency. So if we increase our labor efficiency, that means that we get more done in the same amount of time. And it's not more busy work done in the same amount of time, it's more of billable work done in the same amount of time. Because to get your labor efficiency, it's your budgeted hours divided by your clocked hours. Now, if your clocked hours stays the same, but your budgeted, AKA your billable hours goes up, your efficiency has increased. So these are the best 2 ways and the simplest 2 ways to ultimately increase your profit. Now, what you can do is you can combine these 2 ways to increase profit into one example or into one method, and that ultimately will help skyrocket your profit. And I'm going to break this down into 3 different examples. So let's just use a standard example. Example 1 is we have a company that is making $1 million a year in revenue, and their expenses for that year comes out to $800,000, and that's total expenses. So let's say that their net profit for simple math is $200,000. So what we can say here is that in example 1, this company's profit was 20%, or their profit margin was 20%. Now, using the first way in increasing profit, for example 2, is if we keep our revenue the exact same of $1 million, but we've decreased our expenses by $700,000, or by $100,000, ultimately leading to $700,000, that means our net profit comes out to $300,000. So just by decreasing our expenses, we've now increased our profit margin by 10%, leading to a 30% profit margin. Ultimately, more money back in your pocket at the end of the year. Now, like I said, the best way is to combine those 2 methods to ultimately skyrocket your profit. And so in this example, our revenue has increased because we've completed more billable work in that year. Our expenses has stayed the same in consideration of example 1, but ultimately in this example, your expenses have decreased because our billable work has increased, and that means your variable costs and expenses would have also increased. So by showing $800,000 right here does not mean that our expenses have stayed the same. Ultimately, in relation to revenue, our expenses has decreased. And this means that our profit has also increased. And if my math is correct here, profit of $400,000 per year with a revenue of $1.2 million a year, I think if my mental math is right, is 33% of net profit margin. So yeah, it's only 3% more from example 2. So Sam, should I just focus on decreasing my expenses and not getting more done? It's like, no, because now you've increased your profit by $100,000, and 3% might not mean much to you, but I'm sure $100,000 in your pocket more per year would probably move the needle for you quite a bit. My second area of focus is to increase customer retention. Now, why this is so important is, as a business owner, you take a lot of pride and you put a lot of effort into getting inbound leads into your business systems. Now, when these leads come in and you do your whole sales system and your sales cycle and you turn them into paying customers, if you then allow them to easily leave your company, whether that's for quality related issues or you didn't meet them their standards, or the perceived value is not equivalent to the price, you're gonna lose customers. And it's gotta be your main focus, especially as a business that's doing over $500,000 a year in annual revenue, to plug those holes and to keep the customers a part of your company for as long as you possibly can. Without getting on a long tangent, the reason why this is super important ultimately is because you have to pay to get a customer. It's a customer acquisition cost. And so let's say that your customer acquisition cost is $100, but then your net profit per visit is $10. So what that means is you now have to service that customer 10 different visits to break even on that customer. If that customer leaves on their 4th visit, you've lost money on that customer. But if you can keep that customer for 1 million visits, you're gonna make profit after that 10th visit. So you need to increase customer retention, also leading to increasing the total lifetime value of that customer. Now, what I like to think about in terms of increasing customer retention is, I call it like the rule of 20%, even though 20% is just a made up number in this example. But let's say every single year you lose 20% of your customers, whether they died, whether they moved, whether they're unhappy with your service, whether they can't afford it, whatever. Let's say you lose 20% of your customers every year. So that's lost. Bye-bye. See ya. That means that in 2024, if I have lost 20% of my customers, that means in 2025, if I grow my company by 20%, I am stagnant. I have to literally grow my company by 20% just to make up for 20% of lost customers. This is why you need to focus on increasing the customer retention at a certain size of your business. Now, using this example here, this little funnel or bucket, let's just say, is our business. And we work super hard on getting all of these leads in, whether that's through organic SEO, word of mouth, referral programs, Google ads, Facebook ads, whatever it is, door hangers. You're getting all these leads into your business. And then your sales cycle allows you to close those customers and get them to pay you for your services. But let's say that your company has a lot of different leaks and you're losing different customers for whatever reason. So let's say this reason was service related because you didn't blow off their back patio. Let's say this reason people are leaving is because you have poor customer service skills. Let's say this reason is you had an employee on a property that was smoking and then had to relieve himself by going to the bathroom in a plastic cup in front of their house. Whatever. Let's say that this is the perceived value does not meet the price that you're charging the customer. And let's say that this reason is because people are moving and they're moving out of state and they no longer need your services. Now, what you want to do in an ideal situation is to plug all the holes. And you're like, Sam, but if you plug all the holes and you have all these leads coming in, won't your customers get to a certain point where they start overflowing and you can't take care of them? Yes. And so once you get to the point where you've plugged all the holes and you have an amazing business and you start having this overflow, meaning you're over capacity and you don't have the amount of labor to fulfill on the work that you've sold, you want to create one hole in this bucket. And what that is increasing prices to the customers, because you no longer have the capacity, so you artificially want to lose customers so that way you can make more money by increasing the price. So let's say that you increase price by 20%. Now you start losing customers, right? It's not as much as you lost before, but you start losing them. And this is perfect. This is when you start making a lot of profit in your business. And so to use this in a different analogy is, let's say that you raise your prices by 20%. I'm gonna do this really quick. So let's say that this is the amount of budgeted hour capacity that you have in your day. And the amount of work that you sold is your rate at capacity, right? So what you want to do is you've now raised your prices by 20%, and your goal is to lose 20% of your customers. What does this mean? This means that you now are making the exact same amount of revenue, but now you have 20% more capacity to sell more work. My third area of focus is to increase sales. Now this sounds counterintuitive to what I mentioned on the last area of focus when I'm saying that we want to raise prices and intentionally lose customers. Well, Sam, if you're intentionally trying to lose customers, why would your focus be on increasing sales? And I'm so glad you asked. It's a great question. So if we are intentionally raising our prices with the core intention of losing a little bit of customers, maintaining our monthly revenue, but giving ourselves 20% more capacity to go fill our schedules, what I need to be doing is I always need to be focusing on increasing sales. The reason why I want to focus on increasing sales is because it will shorten the amount of time it takes for me to fill that additional capacity. And the quicker that I can fill that additional capacity, the faster that we can raise prices. And I'm almost playing leapfrog, right? I'm almost trying to get to capacity as fast as I possibly can so that we can, raise prices and create more capacity and so on and so forth. Now you're going to get to a certain point where you reach equilibrium within your community, right? Somebody's not going to pay $250 for a lawn mowing service. That's fine. But until we get to that equilibrium, until you start really trying to push that needle, you always need to be focusing on increasing sales. You got to be good at selling. So let's use an example. These are not my numbers, but let's say from last year, quarter 2 of 2023, our labor rate was $80 per hour. And for this example, let's assume that we were at capacity, meaning that we could only complete 1,000 budgeted hours per month. Now that doesn't change, right? Because that's all dependent on how many trucks you have, on the equipment that you have. If you do not increase the amount of trucks or equipment or labor, your capacity will stay the same. And so from 0 to right here, that's going to be 1,000 budgeted hours. And let's say that since we were at capacity, 1,000 budgeted hours multiplied by our labor rate gave us a revenue ceiling of $80,000 per month. So no matter what, if we didn't change anything, we can only ever make $80,000 per month. And you're like, Sam, well, that's just as much as you can do without getting more trucks. Wrong. You raise your prices. So you go to quarter 3, 2023. Now you raise your prices. Your labor rate is now $100 to all of your customers. And so some people were like, hey, I just can't afford that. You guys have been great. Unfortunately, I can't afford that. Like Mrs. Jones, I completely get it. This is just a necessity that we have to do for our business. And if you ever need anything from us in the future, please feel free to reach out. So now we've increased our earning capacity by 20%. And so by filling that additional 20% by increasing sales as one of our core focuses, now we've made an additional $20,000 per month with no extra work. So we've made $20,000 more per month with no extra work. The only person working harder is the sales rep. The guys still out in the field, they're still only mowing 1,000 budgeted hours worth of work per month. But you're going to be able to make 20,000 more, and they're going to be able to make more since they're on a performance pay system as well. And so now, once we get to that $100,000 per month threshold, we'll raise our prices more and lose more customers, and always playing that sales game, so that way you can ultimately make more profit and have a successful company for you and your family and your employees. The fourth and final area of focus that are in my core 4 is improving work culture. And so I've personally worked at jobs where I did not enjoy coming to work in the morning. What we call them is like Sunday scaries. Like on Sunday night, you just don't want to come to work. And so since I've been there, I'm in a unique position now to create a company that allows people to enjoy coming to work. Now, granted, we are in the lawn mowing industry, and it's not always fun having to go mow lawns in 110-degree weather here in Central Texas, but at least you can enjoy the people that you do it with, and at least you can kind of feel like a sense of freedom where nobody's breathing down your neck and micromanaging you. Like, we have systems in place, they have boundaries to operate within, and we kind of have a pretty relaxing environment here. Just go and get your work done, and work hard and play hard. And so one of my areas of focus of improving the culture is like we take guys out to like baseball games, and at the opening day this year we bought out a whole suite, like a presidential suite, that allowed all of our guys and their family to watch the game and have drinks and food and just enjoy their time and getting to learn about each other a little bit more. But there's a return, there's a financial return on focusing on improving work culture. And so, for example, if we didn't improve work culture, ultimately what that would mean is we would decrease the average amount of time that an employee worked for our business. And so, using this example, and for both of these examples, we're going to have a constant, and that constant is our labor rate of $100 per hour. So for this example, if we didn't focus on improving work culture and we were just like, hey, come to work, get the jobs done, what's wrong with you guys, like, people are going to leave. And so let's say that our average employee tenure is 4 weeks. And since they're only here for 4 weeks, they can't really get into the rhythm with the equipment, and they don't really understand efficiencies and all these things. And so what that leads to is that leads to a labor efficiency ceiling of, let's say, 60% for easy math. And so since we know how to calculate labor efficiency, what that ultimately means is that in a 40-hour work week, they've only completed 24 budgeted hours. And if our labor rate is $100 per hour, that means that this employee, or our average employee, because we're not focusing on improving work culture in this example, comes out to $9,600 in labor revenue per employee per month. Now let's go to example 2, where we really invest into our employees and understanding their goals, their dreams, their ambitions, and we are able to keep them here for, let's say, an average of 2 years. And so if they're here for an average of 2 years, they're going to get into a rhythm. They're going to understand efficiencies. That means that we can get that labor efficiency up to 80%. So that means in a 40-hour work week, they can now complete 32 budgeted hours. And so what that ultimately comes down to is the average labor revenue per employee per month comes out to $12,800. And right now we have 3 trucks for our main location. Now we have a second location that we're also building. But for our main location, we have 6 employees out in the field. And so if we take the delta between these two numbers, what that ultimately comes out to is that 6 employees, if we can master example 2 and improve our work culture and get that labor efficiency to 80% compared to example 1, what this comes out to is we can now make an additional $9,200 per month just by increasing our labor efficiency from 60 to 80%. So that's a 20% increase, ultimately leading to an additional $19,200 per month. Now, if you are just starting off, I would not prioritize these 4 focuses as your 4 focuses. If you're just starting off, what you need to focus on is fulfillment, sales, and hiring. That's it. Those are your areas of focus. But once you get closer to that $1 million a year mark, you have to have a really dialed in roadmap on what your core focuses need to be, or else you're going to get lost in the weeds, because there's a lot of different opportunities that come across your email, and people are asking you, like, should we expand over here? Just focus on your core 4 and make the absolute best company that you can. Your employees deserve it, and you deserve it.